Alright, we're getting ready to flush our brake fluid on our 2017 Honda CR-V. We've got some Honda brake fluid. The important thing is that it's a .3 brake fluid. So any .3 should work, but this is from Honda. Not sure how much it's going to take. You're going to need a wrench. I haven't checked it yet, but I'm guessing it's going to be a 10 millimeter. So I have a 10 millimeter ready. I also have a 10 millimeter in case I decide to use either one of those. Turkey baster, and this bottle is made specifically for brake fluid. You can home make one if you want, but these are pretty cheap like they are. So what this does is one end of it goes on the brake and one end of it empties into there, and then it's got the hanger so that you can hang it at the right height. So I'll demonstrate all that when we get to it. So why do we flush our brake fluid? So brake fluid is hygroscopic, so that just means that it absorbs moisture. So if you're around water, humidity, over time your brake fluid is going to have more water mixed in. So when water is introduced to and mixed with brake fluid, it can hurt braking performance. The reason is that .3 brake fluid boils at 400 degrees Fahrenheit or 205 Celsius, and water boils at 212 Fahrenheit or 100 Celsius. So when the brakes get hot, the water is going to boil and vaporize much sooner, and that's going to hurt your braking performance. So we've already went over our tools, and our first step is that we're going to use our turkey baster to take some of the fluid out of our master cylinder to get started, and we're going to empty that into this container. The main thing is that the master cylinder on these is very shallow, and you don't want the fluid to go below the line where air would get in. So we're not going to take very much out. That's going to be our first step. Come on over here. This is our master cylinder. This is our brake fluid right here. So we're going to take this cap off. I really can't get a lot out. Okay. So what we're gonna have to do, since the master cylinder is very small, we'll probably just have to keep adding brake fluid to that. So to get started, I'm gonna go ahead and grab my fluid. Some ducks in our yard. We're going to go ahead and kind of top off the fluid. And normally, you know, there's a fill line you don't want to go over, but we're not going to worry about that right now because we're going to flush all this. So we're going to go all the way up. Then we're going to put our cap back on. I got a little too much in there. I have to remember that next time. It needs a little to close. So we'll leave our brake fluid there. Alright, so now that we got a little bit out of our master cylinder, in the future, if I'd have known I was going to get that little out of it, I probably would have just not even worried much about that and just filled it up to start the flush. But some of the master cylinders reservoirs are larger and you can get some out. So now we're ready to begin flushing the brake fluid. So typically in most cars they'll say to start with the wheel furthest away from the master cylinder, which would be your passenger rear, your driver rear, then your passenger front, then your driver front. But Honda, probably because of the way the ABS is routed, Honda recommends starting here at the driver front and then going to the passenger front and then the passenger rear and the driver rear. So we're going to start here, going to go around the vehicle and end back there. So we're gonna do that. And what we want to do, we want to put our hose on the bleeder valve, and then we want to make sure our hose goes up from there and then down into the bottle, and that the hose in the bottle is submerged in brake fluid so that air won't be introduced into the system. So we had to add some clean brake fluid to our bottle since we didn't get enough out of the master cylinder. So what we're looking for is this right here. This rubber cap right here. I got a little screwdriver. Can you see that right there? That's our valve, okay? So I'm gonna keep track of my rubber cap. I've got my bottle here. I want to put this hose on that bleeder valve. And I want it to fit good. So it's kind of popping off on the side that I can't see very well. So okay, now it's on there. Now I've got to rig something up so that I can hang this bottle. Actually, I can just set it on this tire. That's going to work for this one. I'm just going to set it on that tire. So there's our setup. I got the hose coming up from the valve, going up higher and then down into the bottle. So okay, so I was right. This is a 10 millimeter. So we're going to put our 10 millimeter wrench right here. We're going to crack it open. Okay, so we're going to loosen that. Then we got a little fluid coming. So now I'm going to push the brake to the floor gently. Okay. Okay, so now we're going to close this nut right here. Okay, so now that one's done. So take our hose off and we'll put our rubber cap back on to keep the dirt out. Okay, that brake is done. So now we're going to fill up our master cylinder again. All right, going to go over to the other side. So on this passenger front, there it is. It's our rubber cap. We're gonna get our hose on there. All right. Make sure it goes up when it leaves. Okay, so our hose is coming up, then down into our bottle. So now we're gonna loosen this nut. Okay, so you might try that if you have trouble. Use the closed end of your box end wrench. And I'm having trouble getting it down on the hose. Okay, there it comes. So that did work. Okay, I'm gonna hit the brake a couple times. Okay, I wasn't feeling like it felt the same way as the first one, so I went ahead and started the car. I don't know if that mattered, then I was able to pump more fluid through there. So we closed that one. We finished this wheel, got our little cap back on. Move on back to this wheel. Same thing. So on these back wheels, here. So right here on top. So we won't video this, but we're going to do the same thing on the last two. Alright, so we flushed all 4 of the brakes, and then we, at the end, our master cylinder says max right here with the line. Just want to make sure that your fluid level is at that max line and not above or below it. So we've already done that, and it's filled up with the new brake fluid. So our flush is complete. I hope that's helpful to you.